I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone had a good summer. We haven't met since June. Or maybe we met in, no, we haven't met since June because we had to cancel the July meeting because we didn't have enough people. So with that, are there any members of the public on Shannon that I can't see?
I don't have any attendees on here.
Okay.
All no. Right. Yeah,
all right.
Go.
All right. So then we will move on to the next item. There are no presentations. So next is to approve the June 2nd, 2021 meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Great. Does anyone have any changes or comments on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the June 2nd, 2021 meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Oppose? Abstentions?
I should probably technically abstain. I was absent.
No, Paula has not clued you in on this, Chris.
No, she hasn't.
Oh, she lectured us.
Okay, then I approve them.
Yes, you are allowed to approve, even if you weren't at the meeting.
Okay. Then I approve.
All right. All right then. So relatedly, as Catherine said at the beginning, we have Catherine and Shannon taking over as Erica has resigned from the assistant town manager position. So we welcome Shannon back and we welcome Catherine to joining us. And with that, I'm going to move into the public education goal and the anti-idling. I don't know if we have any updates because I don't think Sam is on today.
No, I mean, the only thing, I went to all the schools and there's one sign and it's a tiny little sign at IAR. So we need to do it. And I reached out to him and he's been buried in work. So yeah. So it hasn't moved forward yet.
Okay.
So the question about that, can I just ask a question? So what happens next is that the town orders signs, like they do the, what are next steps? I mean, we know we're going to do it. Does it have to come through the committee again or like what?
That's a really good question, Kate.
Yeah. So someone give Catherine and I like a 1 minute rundown on what this is.
Sure. So one of the objectives when we were thinking about attempting to go for the silver status, which I'm just assuming we're not doing that this year. But one of the things on the list was an anti-idling signage program. And do you have it already? And we don't. And so bottom line is the objective for us would be to put up, something, snazzy, do not idle in the area where there's student pickup and parents are picking up.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that are idling. But also it should be where the buses are as well, just as a reminder. But
how is that? Okay, so the anti-idling and a parent pickup, the idea is to keep everybody moving. So they want the parents to pull in, get the kids out to the car as quickly as possible, that group move, and to keep that line moving. So how do you do, the alternative is everybody starting and stopping their car repeatedly?
Well, I think it's
on and off.
Also like the middle school parents who show up for sports pickup 20 minutes early.
Okay, that's yes, but okay, so that I would agree with, yeah.
I mean, I was at high school pickup today. I got there 10 minutes before pickup. You pulled up to your spot. I stood still in my car for those 10 minutes till dismissal. And then the point was to keep moving. So I think we'd like people to turn off their cars if they're going to be sitting for 10 minutes.
Yeah, and the law is 3 minutes, so. And I know I can speak that, I've seen these at other schools and that it's a common sign, so I think in some ways I would think it's common sense that if you're moving through the line, you're not turning on your car off every time you inch forward a space. But if you're there, the concept is if you're there early, don't leave your car on for the whole time. And Sam, I mean, there is one sign at total, Kate, or one sign at each school?
Total.
One sign total.
Which school is it at?
It was at
IAR, and it's on the door. It's right by the cafeteria, so it's not even
Okay.
It's not by the
nowhere to be seen, right?
So, yeah, you
Not where
can't
you
even
want it.
see it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And you know, it's and most of these pickup spots, and particularly like West District School, it's incredible how they all line up back there in that parking lot. And you know, the classrooms are right there. And you know, same with Noah Wallace. These, you know, kids' windows are right there. So it's just,
Mhm.
I don't know, makes sense.
No, yeah, it might be even like a flyer in the schools, because,
Mhm.
you know, put it in the kids' backpack. I know that they don't like printing anything, but that might be, sometimes they get buried, something like this gets buried in the Friday folder, but
Wow. So,
Uh,
which level allows something to go home that's in paper form?
right now they've all switched to, it's all electronic and it's all the Friday folder. So I don't know,
Yeah.
at what point, you know, and I don't know if there's a spring, if we can tie it to something
Well,
with a science class or an air quality, like, so that something is coming home from that standpoint.
right. And I wonder if it's, you know, possible to get in front of like the PTAs and just do a little infomercial around it so that they can share it with, you know, kind of like teach the teachers, you know, like that it moves then to the communities of all these individual schools. I don't know if there's another.
Maybe a little small section of the next town newsletter.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That would be, that's a great idea, actually.
Then we're not putting, I don't like it when the Green Efforts Committee is printing up reams of paper. It's a little bit counter to our.
No, it's a good way to piggyback on some of the efforts that are already going on.
Yeah, and we had talked about that actually with Patty about doing something, because we've got the it's quarterly. So I think too, rather than Green Efforts having to develop our own newsletter each time, it's probably more impactful to have an article in the quarterly newsletter that comes out for the town that's got all the other info in that people hang on to anyway, because they need to remember when the pickup days are and the household hazardous waste days and all that. So that would be a great idea. I know the deadline for the fall article just passed. It was last Friday, I'm pretty sure, to receive articles in. I can check to see if there's room to add in for fall. If not, we could definitely get it in for the winter.
If there's even a tiny bit of space for fall, it could just be, remember, shut off your car when you're waiting in parent pickup at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I can check to see if there's any room.
Great. Let me know. And I can jot something, or if you could just put something in that's easy like that.
Okay.
Right, yeah, and one of the things we discussed at the last meeting was that there was a possibility that there would be funds available through Board of Ed funds, and I have a vague recollection of that discussion, but I don't remember details, and I think it was Sam who may have mentioned it, Kate, so.
Yeah, he did. And I don't know where that went, so.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we can keep it on the agenda for next meeting, and hopefully you'll have time to touch base with Sam
Yeah,
and report back, or Sam can come to the meeting if he's available.
Okay.
All right.
We can make a note in the minutes too that there's an action item for him.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing us up to speed. That was helpful.
Fair.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the sustainable CT goal. So obviously, yes, we are not submitting for silver certification this year. I met with Shannon and Catherine about this also earlier this month to talk about where we are and what the goals are. Erica had raised in the past lots of the staff time that it takes to gather the data, and that it's as much as she wanted people to help, she didn't know how to get members to gather this information that is somewhere in town databases, town records. And it was a big push on staff time. And I know Shannon, as a prior liaison for the green efforts, had said the same thing when we were talking about it before. And there's still that concern about the amount of time it takes to gather the information and the data. And that probably hampered a lot of what we were doing the past 4 months, trying to pull that together. Because in order to fill out the application, we had to demonstrate what we had done. And a lot of it is what we had done in the past. And my understanding is we'd probably met a lot of the steps, but it's still a lot of staff time to go through it. So one of the questions to raise for the committee is whether we want to work more towards actual items that have an impact on the town, knowing that we are a sustainable CT town. We just don't have bronze or silver. We're not certified, but we are a participating town. Do we want to move more towards action items with the hope that as we do more action items, we can keep track of it better and then apply for sustainable CT when we've had more time to gather the data? And the other thing that was raised is that sustainable CT, your certification expires every 3 years. So you're gathering the data every 3 years. And maybe there's a way to be more efficient or more effective with a committee of volunteers. A lot of the other towns have someone hired who does a lot of the work for their Green Efforts Commission. I know West Hartford has a part-time employee that does recycling and a part-time employee that does energy, and somehow they manage to do all the stuff that needs to get done. So what I guess the question is, does the committee want to try to reach silver certification still with sustainable CT in light of the delays and the difficulties of gathering the data, or do we want to try to move towards more actionable items that maybe we can have a more direct impact on the town?
Patty, quick question. I can't remember. Is there just one application date, or could you do it twice a year? Were there 2 windows of opportunity?
There are 2 windows of opportunity, spring and fall. And
That's okay.
by
That's what I
fall,
thought, yeah.
I think it might be late August. It might not be September.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was thinking, do you dual track this? Like, you just try and do some action items to get, let's say, bronze or whatever, then, behind the scenes on a slower track, try and collect the data to then reapply the next time for the silver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we should work on actionable items, kind of store them up in preparation. I felt like the process that we were going through to try and get the silver felt rushed and not really, I don't know, we as volunteers to this, commission or committee, there was nothing that we could do, because it was always, well, we've already done that. We just need to get the data. And well, we've already done that. And so a lot of our meetings were spent looking at something that, it was just really about hunting and pecking for stuff we've already been doing, so we could check the box. That's what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
I think the program had a lot of good ideas, but I agree that it was a lot of like, we don't need to do anything because we already did it, which I think it's more exciting to try to do things and green up the town than prove that we used to we have done green things.
So Patty, like, is your question, like, gauging the interest in pursuing the certification sort of in general? Is that kind of underlying it as well?
Is I think it's not so much is there no interest at all in pursuing certification, but more is there an interest towards moving forward and trying to some extent, as Chris says, maybe, you know, data can be gathered in the background over the next year on what's been done, but instead let's look towards actionable items. And then maybe at the end of that time, maybe we submit for certification because we feel like we have the data and the time to actually gather the information. But I think, yeah, so it's a question of, do we want to really pursue certification, or do we want to maybe use the guidelines of sustainable CT to guide what our actions are without necessarily moving forward to get the bronze seal of approval? Does that help, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to kind of organize the nuance as to whether we just want to use that as a guidepost to give us sort of inspiration for, you know, having more action-based activities, or if it was sort of like that in tandem with also, you know, I agree, it was like probably aggressive to try to get there this year, but in the background, like if there is all this administrative sort of work that needs to occur, then just focusing on the implementation of actual change while ignoring like the administrative stuff that I totally can understand is super time consuming. If we are still like putting that out there as a target for us eventually to officially get that certification, then that's what I was trying to organize with my question. So that's helpful.
Yeah. And I'll let Shannon or Catherine chime in too, but I'm assuming that with Erica's resignation, we're down a staff person in town hall.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so this, as of now, this is a permanent shift back to Catherine and I. So this is in addition to the land use and running the planning department. Correct. Yep, which is fine. I mean, you know, it's good, but that's, I think, why, you know, and Catherine can articulate it better, but we've gone through and there are things that have been completed, and it's going back, and some of it, you know, it's the street light, it's going back and pulling all the street light data, and some of it is even going back further and finding the resources, and where like some of the staff people that were involved in some of the projects that would qualify aren't even here. So it's like we're really starting to chase our tail on some of the things. And it's getting it in a format that can be implemented. And quite honestly, when we're trying to do agenda reviews weekly for either TPZ or wetlands, for applications in order to continue to move land use applications forward, and we're having to review plans and prepare agenda reviews for the commissions, there is not time to write up and to search for and write up the documentation that needs to be uploaded into the sustainable CT database. It doesn't exist.
Shannon and I got into the sustainable CT portal and started poking around in the files that had been saved by Erica. And although there was work striving in the right direction of getting to apply, we still have a fair amount to go, and just based on our time restrictions right now and other commitments, meeting all of those things by this fall was a really lofty goal. But in looking at, and I have the matrix in front of me, which I think has a lot of great ideas. I think that now that we are in the system, now that we have the folder structure on the computers and on the town drive, as we, and I think a lot of the topics and action items here have great merit and will do a lot of good for the town of Farmington and pushing the envelope as far as sustainability in the town. So now that we have that kind of framework set up within our drive here at Town Hall, as we can work through some of these projects and adding the information as we go, it's a lot more streamlined into applying for sustainable CT, assuming that it's still an interest of this group and of those in Town Hall. So I think using the framework that sustainable CT provides is really great, and drawing inspiration from some of the projects that they would track could be really great for the town.
So it sounds like you can find time to do it you're not against it. Because I mean, I heard that you're too busy and you can't do it, but I also heard that we have a framework. So
we've set up the folders so that now as we work through, equity action item 1, we could put something in the folder and help, 2 years down the line when we've worked through some projects that we could save and upload to the portal so that we have all the information. Prior to seeing this framework, things were saved in different departments and things were saved in people's emails that we no longer have access to. And it's just a matter of searching for things that also are getting outdated based upon the 3-year timeline window that we have to be collecting information from and putting into the portal. If that adds a little clarity.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So rather than do a retrospective, you're just talking about, let's just move forward with what we have, what we set up going forward, correct?
Correct.
Not
Yep.
looking back. Okay.
Right.
And I think that's a great way to get excited about some projects and look forward to what are the real objectives of sustainable CT. It's about building sustainability and moving forward. How do we create, embed some of those policies and objectives into our community.
So am I hearing general consensus to move forward with that approach of actionable items? And
Yes.
Yes.
Jason, okay. Jennifer?
Yeah, I think we'll have to obviously think about how to get more involvement to drive those things forward, for different initiatives. I know some of those would also become laborious, but I love the sentiment for sure. I just am kind of thinking about that broader kind of community engagement piece and how could we get others sort of involved along the way.
Sylvie, did you have anything you want? Do you agree? Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I agree. I think it's, putting the pieces to the puzzle, right? Who has time? I think we could do it. We just have to find the time.
And Sam, are you able to speak now? Can we hear you?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I just had a couple of points on the anti-idling. So the one sign that we do have up, while we said it was not in a visible location, that is a typical spot to have anti-idling because that's where you're receiving orders and those sort of things. So that's where you typically have larger trucks sitting and idling while they're delivering items. So that is a location where we should target at each school. And then on the other end, we had talked about perhaps the town being able to help out with the actual signage. Erica had talked about that. So that was something we should look into. I think where we should go is just come up with an idea of what the signs should look like, or a couple of ideas of that, and then bring it back to the board. And we should be able to get that moving.
So when you say the board, Sam, you talk about the Board of Ed or this commission, this committee?
Well, I think this committee should come up with an idea, a couple of ideas for what we think the anti-idling signs should be. But before we go, installing them throughout each of the school locations, we should probably at least, as an update to the board or something, just so it's not sprung.
Yeah.
Have a couple of ideas and get some input on that end as well.
Okay.
Depending on the cost of each sign, we may not want to do the high school because they're going to start digging up the parking lot and probably destroying them pretty soon after we put them up. But I don't know.
I mean, we're 2 years away before we're in there. So at least a year and a half, we'd have where they'd be in the locations where we want them. And there's going to be quite a bit of signage associated, and that's all part of the sustainable building standards for Connecticut. So you'll see a lot of that signage. There'll even be commuter parking spots and all those sort of things, low emitting vehicle parking spots. So I'm sure there'll be something regarding idling as well when the signage for the new project for the new building comes out.
So Sam, you and I should meet to talk about this, maybe in the next couple of weeks. I know you've been super busy at the beginning of school, but I'll reach out to you and we can get something on the schedule.
Well, I was almost at a point where I could take a breath after the summer, so it seems like the perfect time to do that.
Perfect. Yay.
So when you mentioned that Erica had mentioned that the town could be involved in the signs, did she happen to mention that getting the highway department involved?
Yep, that's what she referred to.
Okay.
And it was depending on how complicated the print was, I guess, but.
Okay, do we have, so as a jumping off point, since there's already a sign at IAR, do we have a picture of the sign at IAR and the dimensions, or can someone get that to us?
I can get that for you. Yeah, no problem. I did take a picture, but I don't think it's good enough. I'll go back and measure too.
Okay.
Should I email it to you, Shannon?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Maybe something that the highway department, obviously they're kind of busy in the fall. We're finishing up summer projects, and the next thing we know, we'll have leaf pickup. But in that transition before we get snow, there may be an opportunity to get through signs. It'd just be figuring out the wording and the size, and then the quantity, and then getting a price, and then figuring out, because there'll be material costs obviously for that. So we can get that ball started, and then with the idea that my guess it may be over kind of the winter-ish that they get all fabricated with an installation in the spring, because you're not going to be able to install them in snowbanks and whatnot. So
Right.
depending on where they're going. But
How many signs are you guys thinking? Just one at each school, or?
No, because there has to be one at the loading dock, which Sam just noted, and then it's got to be where parent pickup is, because that's where a lot of the idling is happening.
So averaging about 2 per school?
Well, Sam, do we need one by the school buses as well?
I think the bus company goes by state regulation. So all the drivers are aware of the state regulation that they shouldn't be idling. I would say we could focus on the parent pickup and the servery areas.
Okay, so 2 each. So
It's a balance between an eyesore and having enough that people see it. If there's just one, then it'll only be seen by 3 cars, right?
Well, we can take a look, and it might be, again, some of that might be public education through Friday folder or through a science class, if we can tie it to something, if there's, like I know we got Arbor Day in the spring, like there's a bunch of things in the spring that we might be able to tie this to help get the word out.
Some public shaming.
And so we can also take a look, because that probably is a little different for each school too, as to what might be the most appropriate and where we can actually, from a practical standpoint, get them installed. So let's see, let's get the first couple of hurdles of what it looks like, what size, can we do it in-house? Does it have to go out? Let's get through that, and then we can start to figure out, and kind of maybe each of you take a school location and come up, you know, hey, all right, we got the aerial and this is what we know the traffic pattern is. And so, you know, that would be a great assignment for you all, that's manageable, to say, hey, we've been at this school and this is the traffic pattern, and these are 2 or 3 ideal locations. And then we can go from there. And then if we've got to break it into smaller chunks, do we do the elementary schools first and then and come back around at a later time to do upper elementary and middle school? So, right, but we'll try and break it into chunks first.
All right, so on the potential of tying it to curriculum, Sylvie, who's on, is that something you can bring up somehow to the board? Or I don't know who's on the curriculum committee. I don't know how to get it into the schools to the teachers.
I could ask around.
Okay.
Maybe suggest, once we come up with a couple of different ideas for what the design would be, I could reach out to principals.
Okay.
And we could talk about that way I could talk to them about the location where they would be most beneficial. And we could also gauge some interest about how that might tie into their curriculum as well.
Oh, that sounds great. Thanks, Sam.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you. So we've got some action items there on our waste reduction goal, the simple recycling update. I think Eric had even talked about this at the last meeting, I think. But I assume everyone saw the postcards and the notices and the flyers that it's no longer curbside pickup. Have you heard and that it's, call, make an appointment, or, schedule them to come pick up in whatever container you have that you want them to come pick up your stuff. And Shannon, has the town gotten any feedback in any way, shape, or form?
So it's been limited feedback to date. I actually have a call into Simple Recycling because we need our numbers for the last set of numbers we received was in May. Okay. So I don't even have June, July, and August numbers. So I think unfortunately, I think they are feeling what many businesses are feeling that have to deal with employee retainage, and they're just having issues with keeping people on, and then it trickles into their responsiveness with something. So we're working through that, but I don't have an update. I can say we haven't received the phone calls for missed pickups and things like that have diminished. So from that end, it's been an improvement. Whether or not there has been a change in the volume, I don't know. Hopefully I'll be getting those numbers here in the next week, and then we can get those shared out, because I'm kind of curious to see how the volume's been doing. We've been averaging about 1 ton to 1.5 tons. I mean, at some point that's going to start to dip down and hit a plateau, but at the same time, the program opened up to all of Farmington. So by doing this and having it a call in, and it can be at your doorstep, it opened it up to you know, even the, you know, the condominiums, the apartments, the private roads. You know, we've got a lot of private streets in Farmington that are not on our regular trash and recycling pickup. So it opened it up to virtually every resident in Farmington. So hopefully that is helpful. So we'll see. There'll be an article in the newsletter again. Part of our obligation with this contract is that it'll be in each of the newsletters, just kind of a quarterly reminder of what the process is and how to get in touch with them. And it's also on the website. When you go on the website, that link automatically kicks you to the sign-in page to go ahead and schedule your pickup on the days that are available for Farmington. So
It was very easy to do. I scheduled one and it was so simple. It's nice.
good. Oh, good. I'm glad you had positive. That's good. I appreciate the positive feedback. That's helpful. So that's good to know. I know I had done one and it worked well also. So, but as I get more data, I mean, the kind of the proof is in the numbers. So as that information starts to come in, I'll be sure to get that shared out.
And Kate, were you just using your regular household trash bags, or what container, how are you doing it?
Well, I just scheduled it about 4 days ago.
Okay.
I didn't get a date until the 30th. So it just shows you the soonest date based on where you're located.
Okay.
I don't know yet. Yeah, I'm just gonna put boxes out because I have pickup from other organizations and they usually just pick it up within whatever. So it's nice.
Yeah, and if you had the pink bags that are left over, you can use it. It's not that you couldn't use the pink bags. You can use the pink bags, but you don't have to. You can use any bag in any box, you know, no different than if you were doing the Big Brothers Big Sister pickup, or if you were taking it yourself to Goodwill or Salvation Army. So it's just whatever receptacle really you want to use. So
Okay.
And are we back to being paid like whatever pennies on the pound or tenths of pennies on the pound?
the revised contract, I want to say was 5 cents a pickup location.
Okay.
So, but again, I don't have any of the data for July and August. So I don't have tonnage and I don't have a check. So we're working through that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Of course.
So anyone have anything else on simple recycling waste reduction goal? All right, the next item is our cleanup day. So I want to say thank you to Kate for carrying this laboring oar for 20 years. And Kate deserves a debt of gratitude from everyone in the town for making sure that, I don't know what, it's usually 4,000 to 5,000 pounds picked up every year. That's a lot of waste that Kate's made sure we don't have on the streets. So, and with that, Kate is offered to train the next person to take over this role. But every good deed does eventually have to be transitioned to someone new, and no one should be doing it on their own forever. So one of the things we need to talk about for 2022 is who wants to take this role over from Kate. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're agreeing to take it on each year, but one option would be someone can take it on and turn into Kate and take it on for 20 years. That'd be great. The other options are, it could be something like how Project Graduation runs, where there's one person in charge each year who trains the next year's person. So no one's really doing it multiple years in a row. There are options here, but we need, so that's part of what we need to talk about. And I also don't know, Shannon, if there's a date yet. It's a little early, but
yeah, that's what I just stepped out because I have a sticky note because I knew that was coming. I had my notes for a few other things, but it was on my desk. Tentatively, it is scheduled for April 23rd, 2022. And I say tentatively because we want to continue to have this align with the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day, which we started doing that a number of years ago. And we have to it'll be firmed up once the contract for the environmental hauler is lined up. They have the final say, so that we've put forth this date, that this is the date that we want to hold the event. And we've already checked school calendars and the spring break and whatever, so we're good. It doesn't fall on the beginning or ending date of spring break, so we're good there. And it's just waiting to hear back on the environmental contract. And once that's set, then it'll be finalized. And then everything else can fall into place.
Did you say the 23rd?
The 23rd, yes. Yep, so that's the placeholder date for all of us.
And it's even it's the day after Earth Day.
Right,
Yay.
yay. So, so when we did, it was interesting. I was talking to Russ Arnold today about, because he was wondering what was going on with various meetings, and we were just kind of discussing our week in general, and mentioned that I had this meeting coming up, and mentioned that Kate is ready to pass the baton officially, understandably so. And we both agree kind of with the same sentiment on this, and that it's really an important function for the community. And so, one, just getting the 4,000 to 5,000 pounds of trash cleaned up, right? But the fact that it's a concentrated effort on one day, it aligns with Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. There's a focused effort. It provides a wonderful opportunity for the Scouts, boy and girl Scouts, some corporate partners that have developed through the years, and even some of the teams, the spring and fall sports teams, high school and recreational, and it's important. It's an important event, in that, without this, I don't think Farmington would look the way it does on a regular basis. It's an important, no different than we do our spring cleanup at our own properties. The fact that this effort's coordinated with this committee is a huge community service. So these other initiatives are hugely important. And I know at times it's, cleanup day and putting on the rubber gloves and picking all the nip bottles up and the cigarette butts and whatever, all the gazillion plastic bottles and Tungsten mead isn't necessarily glamorous by any means, but it is a huge community service that it absolutely needs to continue. And there's a huge value to the community with this effort, and taking the 4 hours in the morning, and all the lead up time into it is definitely worth it. And and it's recognized, the effort's recognized, to be sure.
That's good to hear.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Shannon.
No, well, it's important. It's important that people understand that too. Not only you for all the effort that you've put in, but it's really important that this is something that continues into the future.
I agree.
So our cleanup day needs to be sustainable, right?
I will say that it's something that I could probably take on, but there's a part of it that I know I am terrible at, and that is like shaking down businesses for the prize. Like, that is something that I just, like, even if I say I'll do it, I won't do it. I hate it. I'm terrible at it. I will procrastinate it. Then I'll just buy something with my own money out of like embarrassment. And it's just like, so I will drive around the town. I will help with like the dirty areas. I will make the spreadsheets. Like, I can do all that, but like, I cannot be in charge of the largest haul contest. And maybe we drop it because we dropped it because of COVID. But if it's something that everyone loves, then somebody else has to do it.
Well,
Stacey, you could be in charge and delegate.
that's right. And
I
that's
don't even want to be in charge of the people who have to shake down the people, because when they don't shake down the people, I'm going to have to shake down the people.
well,
That's fair. I get it.
I mean, I think that is a negotiable piece. If you're willing to be, the chair of it, I can give you all of my tips, and you can do with them whatever you want and make it your own, obviously. But
Like if someone's like, where's my pizza? I'm gonna be like, it's at Naples, it's $40. Go buy it.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh, I feel the same way, Stacy. So I'm horrible with that too. So I get it. I completely understand.
I'm not
I
even
did-
good at it either. I mean, no one wants to do that, right? I mean, it's like, I don't
That's
know.
why
Yeah.
I self-funded all my campaigns and running for office for the very same reason, Stacy.
Not
So
many
that means
ideas.
you're saying, Stacy, are you saying you're going to do it?
Yes, if I don't have to do that piece.
No,
There-
that's fine.
Yay.
This can be revamped and modified because and Kate, that wasn't always part of, was that
No.
always part of it? No, I mean.
No,
part of
what
it
I-
was just
Yeah, so when
get
I
the
brought it
kids
over,
excited.
right, when I brought it over, we weren't giving prizes out. All we did was we had food at all the stations and that was it. And then over time, we had a hard time luring the kids to get involved. And some of the people that were on the committee thought, well, let's do a competition because kids like competition. And so that's when it started. It was really, really nice. The good part of the heaviest haul competition is that we were starting to weigh the trash. So we could quantify it and we could show the data as opposed to, oh, the town looks good. It was like, we picked up this amount of trash and that made sense to people. So I think that should continue, but the prize piece of it, I don't believe in that, but you know, I kind of went along with it.
Let's just make a big gold star.
Yeah.
They can still get credit in the newsletter if they win the competition.
Yeah. So Kate, let's get together and
Okay.
maybe have some wine and then we can discuss like what needs to be done, when and stuff.
I love it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yay. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Stacy.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll be in touch too as the meetings continue, because we'll make sure it gets publicized. We get the flyers done and get them in Friday folders and all that jazz, all the publications that need to be done and get it in the newsletter.
Great.
So, okay, awesome. Thank you both.
So it's not on the agenda, but the only item I have is kind of prep for next time. So because we have consensus that we're moving towards actionable items using perhaps the sustainable CT as a guide for what types of things we want to consider and might want to do, I think for our next meeting, we need to we did this at the end. I think we did this maybe 2 years ago to figure out what our goals were for the folks that were on the committee 2 years ago of what are we going to focus on? What are we going to do? What's the plan? What are these actionable goals going to be? So if I could ask folks maybe to think about what you're interested in, what you think the committee can do feasibly with little income, because we don't have any funding right now. If town council could choose to fund us, that'd be great. And I know, Chris, you're not running for re-election, so you don't even have to do that in the next budget, but I can put the pitch in anyway. But maybe look at the sustainable CT action categories, think about what you were working on before that you're interested in that we could work on in the town, whether that's stormwater issues or pollinator or native landscaping or whatever that may be. So that way we can talk about what the committee can be doing next.
In case you haven't heard, Patty, we just got through $130 million school at the town council level.
No, that one made my night. That was good. That made my summer. Yep. So,
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And there's certainly, it can be to the extent that whatever the actual item is, whether it's something you're already thinking about, or you can, if we can tie it to sustainable CT and start to put it into a bucket, that's great. You can use the sustainable CT list as a thought generator, your own brainstorming, but to the extent that we can start to tie these to buckets, then we'll we'll get it into their categories then and start to build that portfolio.
When do we get different new members? Like don't we have like 3 open spots?
Wait, to Chris.
Well, we got to get people interested. It's the difficulty is always getting people, filling the seats, putting bodies in the seats. We have a lot of openings, across a lot of our commissions and committees.
Has the council given any? I didn't mean to talk over you, Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do they have to be Republican?
No, absolutely not.
All right, so this is what I was going to ask, Chris. Has the council given any because how it's been done in the past is when the Republicans are in control of the council, they've appointed up through their maximum number. So what do we need to do to move this forward?
Yeah, let me just confirm that, but I'll get back to you. But we are always looking for volunteers on so many of these. There's a lot of openings across the board in town. So, we really just want volunteers.
So is it possible that the council could consider broadcasting just openly apply if you're interested in not just green efforts, but, I'm of course totally interested in green effort, but getting some more information out there similar to how the building committees were done. Let the town manager's office know that you want to serve.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Because I agree, I want people who are interested in the committee and come to meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now there are 2, I'll say official vacancies on the list, and Patty, we can talk about the individual that hasn't been attending, because we can send a polite email asking for a resignation, and I can check the bylaws, but in most of the commissions, the chair has the authority to issue a letter to the town manager requesting the person be removed so that the position can be filled with someone that has an active interest.
Okay.
So generally, we try to give them the opportunity to resign first before going to that.
Right.
But we can further discuss that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shannon.
Of course.
All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time tonight. We finished in under an hour. So does anyone have anything else? All right. So with hearing nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Thank you, everyone.